Welcome to the virtual book club live chat. Glad you were able to make it. We have an exciting reading today. I hope you had a chance to read it. It's actually a talk by Neville that I think it was done in 1968 or so. Anyway, I'm excited about it. I hope that you guys will be excited about it too. Um, let's see. What do we need to do? A couple of things we want to do today that are a little bit different than what we normally do. And so I want to get you in on that, and also to remind you that there is an infinite source available to everyone. It is there for each who seek it, no matter their race, their gender, or their religion. You can believe what you may, but you should know that the source of the universe is also the source of each of us. Therefore, the principle supporting the stars is the same principle available to each and every one of us, regardless of race, religion, or gender. As I speak these words in the first person, I speak them for all. I am committed to the principle of this divine living idea. As I believe it, as I accept it, so it becomes. All is well and well indeed. I do have a little housekeeping scenario that I need to share with you for a moment. So if you just don't mind, let me pause just for a second to clean something up, and I'll be right back with you. The beauty of a live production is that exciting things happen. And so we had some exciting things happen for us today as we just got started. The other thing is, those of you that may not have participated in the past, what we do on this day is that we deal with slides, as you can see, slides. And with that, we go over the material. We also open it up to a live chat. Now, the thing about the live chat is that if you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, you can submit your chat or your comments and we'll get them. They send them to us. If you're on any other platform, we don't necessarily get those. If you're on our platform and as a guest, then of course you will be able to comment right away. With that said, let us move on to today's topic, which is eternal states, as you can see by Neville Garner. And the beauty of this eternal states, as I found it, was the fact that it is something that we can practice, a practical practice of it. And it really can, what we would say, change our lives for sure, without a doubt. Yes. So with that said, please take your pens and pencils, take your notes and prepare. If you have not downloaded the material, prepare to take just extensive notes as I go through this as the facilitator of the live chat. And before I go any further, I want to thank all of you that have joined us either on the platform or on your regular social media. And if you've joined us on the platform, I ask that you just be patient with us as this is a new feature. Some of you may have gone to our website to view the celebration. We continue to work to make it available there, but we don't have any control over the stability of it on our website. So please consider using YouTube, Facebook for the live presentations, our live book chat. You can even use Twitch, and you can use LinkedIn. Any questions that you have, if you don't want to ask them during the time that we are actually going through the material, please jot them down. And if we have time afterwards, I'll be more than happy to address them if you put them in the chat. We do welcome them. It's important. This is to be a two-way kind of dialogue on these virtual book clubs. It's not just me talking to you, but it's you saying, hey, would you give me a little more information there, or a little more information here? And we'll be more than happy to do that. With that being said, we want to see if we can get our recording started. And in order to do that, we want to make a couple of changes to see if we can find a way to exactly facilitate that. Because again, we have a few changes that we've made, and okay, let's see if that'll do it. That'll do it. Great, because we do want to record this and put it out. Okay, with that being said, everything seems to be set up and we're ready to rock and roll. So let us, without further ado, get right into our lesson again from a talk from Neville Goddard from 1968. Okay. And here we go. If those of you that did not know, Neville Goddard was popular and famous for the fact that he said imagination, and he lived this principle, and he taught this principle that imagination creates reality. He was a mystic, as you can see, a teacher and an author, with that emphasis that all things exist in the human imagination, in the human imagination. Wow. What does that mean? All things exist in the human imagination. Let's ponder that for a moment. What do you think that means? All things exist in the human imagination. It seems like he might be saying that life is a blank canvas, and we paint it with that which is in our imagination, that which is placed in our imagination, maybe, that which we generate from our imagination. Think about that. My life today, your life today, is from our imagination. Say, well, no, not really. That doesn't work for me, Rev. I understand that. I understand that. But he also talks about these eternal states. And these are states of consciousness that are available to everyone and anyone. And what are some of these eternal states? What's the difference between the eternal state, right, and individuals? Well, the eternal states that he's speaking of, when you say eternal, they're forever. They're lasting forever. They're always there. Whether we acknowledge them or not, they're always there. And then, of course, if we deal with the metaphysical interpretations that we use in our practice of the Bible, we understand that the individuals and the people in the Bible and the places in the Bible all represent for us various states of consciousness. Various states of consciousness. Now, one of the things we want to just kind of give examples of what are eternal states. What are eternal states? And a couple of examples are fear. You say, how is fear an eternal state? It's always there. It exists regardless of whether we acknowledge it or not. It's there, and we can, well, we'll get into that later, how we can bring that into our lives. Faith is always there. It's an eternal state. It's always there. Now, do we want to practice it or not? That's our choice. Peace, again, always there. An eternal state. There's always peace. If there was no peace, we could not have peace. Okay? No matter what's going on in our lives, if we have a chaotic life, the eternal state. There's an eternal state of peace. And the reason that we can find peace out of chaos is because peace is eternal. And then power, which is very important, especially during these particular times, is very important because of the fact that so many of us in this country, the United States of America, feel hopeless and helpless. But power, is one of those eternal states, and we can always access power. We can always access power. Isn't that a wonderful thing to know that the power is there, regardless of how powerless we feel? And hopefully we'll go through today's material and find out or come up with a method that we can bring this power into our lives. And he talks about here the fluidity of states. And what I want you to do right now is just go with me and think about a river. You know, talk about the Mississippi River. It's a lazy river, and it just kind of flows through from Minnesota down to the Gulf of Mexico. It just kind of flows. It just flows, and you can get on the river, and there's so many songs and so many stories about the river. So just think about being on a bridge over the Mississippi, and it's just flowing, and all of a sudden boats come by, but nobody's in them. No one's in them. But they're each have a name, and there's the boat of anger that floats past you, and then another boat comes in. This is the boat of joy, and it floats past you. And then the boat of love comes past you, and then the boat of confusion goes right under the bridge past you. That's a picture, a story, an example of how these states are so fluid. They're moving, and we choose which one we want to enter. We choose to say, well, I don't choose to be angry. You can't have it both ways, and that's so unfortunate. I personally had an experience earlier this week of dealing with choosing not to be angry, and how much energy it took not to be angry, not to stay angry. But it was a choice. I could have chosen to stay angry and would have done no good. We choose the various states that are eternal, that always exist. Wow. We choose them. We choose them. And the fact is, as it says on the slide, we move in and out of them. That was one of those days that I moved into anger and out of anger and in anger and out of anger again. States of poverty versus a state of wealth. Eternal states. One can always, there will always, what does the Bible say to us? The poor will always be among us. People think those are people. That's a consciousness. It's always there. That's an eternal state. And then I heard a very famous preacher speak about wealth, that wealth is in the Bible. And he's correct, it is. That also is an eternal state. So it's a state that is always available to us. Let's think about the eternal being something that is always available to us, or always there. Yes. Thank you, Matthew. I'll get to a little bit more of what you have to say there in a sec. And then what Goddard says, what Neville says, we have to understand that we are not confined to them. So let's go back to the state of poverty, or let's go back to the state of anger, or let's go back to the state of confusion, or let's go back to any negative state that we want to think of, the state of lack, the state of eternal states. They're always there. They're always there, right? But he tells us here, we don't have to stay in those states. I did not have to stay angry this past week. I did not have to stay, and I chose not to remain angry. And I didn't think about the fact that I'm choosing to be angry. I was angry for a moment, right? the situation, I was angry, but I chose not to stay there. It was an unconscious choice, but as I go back, I understand it was a choice. How many times have you chosen not to stay in a particular eternal state? The state stays there, but you move out of it. Think of it that way. You move out of it. Anger is always there, but I move out of that state. I move out of that state. Okay, let's go on. Now, I mentioned the Bible a little bit earlier. You know, I have some friends, some people who take the Bible for its word, it's God's word. And I used to be in a state of wanting to share with them a different opinion. Let me put it that way. I was in a state of wanting to share with them. Now, that's an eternal state, true enough, because it's always there to want to share your opinion or your information or your facts, but you don't always have to do it, right? You don't always have to stay in that, although some people do stay in that, don't they? They are always telling someone else what's best for them. They're in an eternal state of information, of giving, of opinion, right? See, the states don't have to be, so negative or so etherical. They're just regular everyday moods that he's saying these are states that are always there. And that's the thing to understand. As I change, right? As I change my attitude or position in the state, it doesn't mean that it's no longer there. And I think that's what we can get from what he's telling us, that it doesn't mean that at all. And now we're going to talk about several characters in Scripture. And he lets us know that we are not the state. So my anger, I am not the anger, but I am the operator, or the operate, as he calls it. I'm the one that determines whether I function from anger or not. That's my call. That's on me. That's my power. He gives us the example of the prodigal son. And I like this example for a reason. It reminds me of one of my aunts. And when she discovered that the prodigal son wasn't two different sons, that it was one, and then she discovered it was just one person, or one person going through different phases. It was very exciting, and she wanted to share it, and she shared it in such a wonderful way that I remember it years later. The son that is portrayed as the one that went away from the home and went out into the world, that's a level of consciousness that we do. We move away from whatever that base is, whatever that truth is, whatever that training is. We move away from it in consciousness, and we live a different life in many cases. And then he comes to himself a different consciousness, as Neville would say. This is a person that the consciousness of the world, the consciousness of poverty, of lack that he was experiencing, those were states. And this person decided that I don't want to be in this state. That didn't leave. Poverty still out there. Feeling less than is still out there. And he felt all of these things. And then he came back to himself, coming home, came back to himself. But even coming home, had a feeling of, am I worthy to be home? That's the other consciousness, the other state, the other son. But again, it's one person with various states of consciousness. And the Father, the Christ within him, the wholeness within him, continued to outpour and outpour and outpour to him until he finally accepted, that person, that consciousness finally accepted their worthiness. And we can talk a little bit about some of the other characters that are familiar with many people that study Bible, that have read the Bible. And for this, we're going to use some of our practices material. We're going to use Charles Fillmore's Revealing Word and Metaphysical Bible Dictionary as we go through these various states and kind of make them, break them down in a practical application situation. All right. That's the way we'll look at it. And so, reminded again, we are not the state, but we operate. We are the operator of it. We are not the anger, but we can operate in anger. In addition to operating in anger, we can bring anger to whatever situation we want. And we can also choose not to. When we think about Judas and the 12 powers that Unity uses 12 powers, and each month has a different meaning, a different power. We honor a different power. We celebrate a different power. And with each power, there is a disciple and there's a color. And we work to teach from that disciple, if at all possible. We try to integrate that into our lessons, into our teachings. And for Judas, that is the 12th month, or December. It's a red color, and it's about renunciation. I mean, the 11th month, November, excuse me, and the color is burnt brown, more like brown. And it is a celebration of letting go, renunciation. And let's spend a little time on what Charles Fillmore says about these three individuals as we go through the looking at them. Judas, and then we see Peter, which is January is the first month, blue, and that's looking inward and outward. That's from an idea of faith, looking out for faith and looking in for faith, looking into Christ and looking in the world. And then, of course, Jesus, the I am identity. And let's start with Peter. Peter, as I said, is very changeable if you've read about Peter in Scripture. And Fillmore says Peter comes from a changeable, unstable consciousness of water, a water sense. Water. Say, wow, what is water? Well, water, Peter's operating from a sense. He says sea is water, SEAC, water. It has different aspects. It represents weakness and negativity. It represents cleansing. It represents mental potential. And in some case, it represents vital energy or life. So Peter's operating, you can see there's some negative, but then there's some potential. There's some just giving up, but then there's some energy in life. I don't feel good about life. Oh, I have faith that life is going to turn me down. Oh, I have faith today that life is good. This is a great day. This is Peter, in and out, looking out in the world, looking back into the Christ, looking out in the world, looking back into the Christ. Well, what does that mean for you? What does that mean for me? To know that is part of those eternal states, right? And that we're operating in that, looking out into the world, into the negativity, and looking in to hopefully find positivity and support. We're searching for an eternal state. And when we understand the state that we want, and the state that we want is the potential, the vitality, the faith in those things. The faith in those things. So when I'm lacking in my support for self-support, when I'm lacking in that area, I can realize that I'm lacking guiding, directing, targeting my faith to what I say is my truth, which is the Christ. What you say is your truth, whatever it might be. And that is kind of a natural thing to kind of go in and out as Peter does. But at some point, we want to get control of it and make sure we do less looking out there at the situation and more looking inside at the Christ, at the truth of who and what we are, and grabbing hold to that life and that vital energy. Now, Judas was a thief. That's it. Judas was a thief, right? And what Fillmore tells us here is that when we talk about a Judas consciousness or a Judas eternal state that's always there, that's the selfish use of the life and the vitality so that we can garner sense pleasures. So I'm doing it because it feels good. I'm using my energy. I'm using my wisdom. I'm using because it feels good. See, that's a Judas state of consciousness, and for Neville, saying that is a eternal state. That selfishness, that sense of self-gratification, that's an eternal. It's there all the time. It's there all the time. And now we choose, because we're the operator, if we want to stay in that state or move out of that state. It will always be there. We don't have to fight it. We just decide, I don't want to be in that state. It will always be there. It'll be there for the next generation and the next generation. But we can say, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in that state, that Judas consciousness that will portray my potential. I have the potential of bringing forth the Christ. I have potential of bringing forth the principle of the divine person that resides within me. I have the potential of bringing forth the perfect word or the divine idea. I have the potential to do that. And I choose to turn away from the eternal state of denying that and moving into another state that is also eternal. That means it's always there waiting for me. I move into that state of welcoming me and supporting me, developing and bringing forth that divine idea of the Christ that's within me. And then finally, Jesus, we look at him metaphysically as we've looked at the other two. And we see that Jesus is the I am in man, the self, the directive power within us that is able to raise our whole beingness, our whole self into an understanding and into a position of power, declaring that I am. I am. And when we're doing that, we are raising the Christ within us. We are raising that power within us. That's an eternal state that we can choose to enter. Wow. Beautiful thing. Well, we've moved into a time that we need to reflect a little bit about all of this stuff that we've been rolling with, these states of consciousness and these states of eternal states that have always been there and that will always be there. Nobody told us that. Yeah, you can get angry, but you can not be angry. Anger will always be there. There will always be a choice. And there will always be a choice of peace. There will always be. It's like, wow, why do I still get angry? It's an eternal state. It's always there. It always represents itself. It always gives us the opportunity, right? And if we understand that, why do I feel so down? Depression is an always state. It's an eternal state. It's always there. But once I recognize it, then I can work to move out of it. Sometimes I might need help. Sometimes I might need medication. Sometimes I might need meditation. Sometimes I might need guidance. But if I know that there's something else, if I stop with the Peter in and out and say, I'm looking for that risen Christ. I'm looking for it. I know it's in there and I want to work to bring it forth. I know it's already there. It's already risen. I just need to acknowledge it. Well, the question becomes, what states do you find yourself in? What states do you find yourself revisiting? Man, that's a hard one, isn't it? I thought I was over it. I thought I got past it. I thought the change had come, only to find out I still feel the same way. I still have the same issue. I still have the same weakness. Wow. Wow. Isn't that disappointing? It's also kind of debilitating, isn't it? Also, eternal states. Now, we started this with Neville saying to us that everything exists in the imagination. And then the question comes in this reflection time, how can you shift consciously today? And if in fact you've been taking notes, and if in fact you read the material, and if in fact you've kind of opened yourself up to what you've heard today, you might be in a position to understand that there is an eternal state in opposition to the negativity that you're in right now. What are you saying, Ralph? I'm saying to you that my depression, my anger, my negative feelings are truly eternal states, but their opposites are also eternal states, and I am the operator. So it is up to me to begin the process of moving out of the state that I no longer want. And once I begin the process, understand that I, like Peter, need to look inside, not outside. I need to look inside to the Christ for the help. And what do you mean? What are you saying? That's all goobly gobbly, Reverend. Once we make the decision that we choose to go into another state, that we choose to move into another state, once we seriously make that decision and put our mind in that direction and do some of the practices that Neville talks about in this particular talk that he gave, imagine ourselves in that new state, knowing that it is already there because it is eternal. Happiness already exists. I don't have to freaking make it happen. It already is there. I see myself in happiness. What does my happiness look like? Because my happiness does not look like Sam's or Susie's or Jones. It's my happiness. And he said, there the process begins when I began to see my happiness, began to shape my happiness in the imagination, even though people think that I'm a little off center because you're just a mean old person and you can't be happy. And I don't know why you're trying to imagine yourself in the happiness. He warns us in his lecture that, yeah, he kind of felt the same way until he tried it and it worked. So we need to see ourselves in the new state that we know that is eternal already. No matter how we feel, no matter how low we are, we have to know that this state that I want to be in, that I choose to be in, is already in existence. I choose to move myself to operate in that state, and I'm operating myself out of the state that I no longer want. Now, one of the things we have to do here is to be very careful. Sometimes we say eternal state, but we say eternal things, right? So if I get this car, house, relationship, job, money, new place, whatever it is, that's my happiness. That is not what he is talking about here. He doesn't warn us against it, but he never mentions that because he said, you imagine yourself into the new state. And as you imagine yourself into the new state, you place those things that you want there. But it is the eternal state that you are working to move yourself in, not the new house that you put into the imagination as you say, okay, my happiness, I see myself now, and oh yeah, I see myself in a 6-bedroom house and blah, 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 and you know, I see the car out front. That's part of the imagination. He says that's part of the work that we do. We need to see those things, but those are not the things that make us happy. That's not what we're striving for. The things come. The eternal state is it's already in existence. I'm moving myself into the eternal state of happiness. And these are the things that I'll find when I get there. These are not the things that make me happy, though. So we want to differentiate between the eternal state of happiness and the things that we find in the eternal state of happiness. Sometimes we get hung up in the things, right? Just me, not you? Okay, no problem. That's all right. So we can shift our consciousness today by First, realizing that no matter what's going on, there is another eternal state opposite of this state. My misery, there's happiness. My lack, as he mentioned earlier, there's prosperity. There's plenty. Let's say lack, plenty. My poverty, there's prosperity. There's another state. There's another state. I do not have to stay in this state. And he's saying, use your imagination because everything already exists in the imagination. And so I'd ask myself, and I ask you, how are we using our imagination? How are we using it? Are we like him? Like he said, I'm not going to be sitting around doing no imagination. And he finally said, I'm going to try it. Let's see if it works. Are we willing to try it, to really try it, to really try it, to put 100% effort into it? Are we willing to do that? I'm just wondering. And then finally, what we talked about, the cars, the home, the whatever. You want to know what your state would look like. What is it going to look like when I'm there? But don't get it confused. As a friend of mine likes to say, don't get it mixed up now. Like, don't get it mixed up. You say, what do you mean? Don't get it mixed up, Rev. It's still not the things. It's still not the things. What we are imagining in our new state are supportive things. But without those things, happiness, the eternal state, would be there. So it is the eternal state that I choose to move into, that I choose to operate from. That's what my choice is. And these are some of the things that I would believe that would make me happy. And this is how I see them. And they may show up exactly that way, and they may show up better than you can imagine, and they may not show up at all, but you still are in the happy eternal state, living from there. And that's really what you wanted in the first place. We don't always know what's best for us, do we? We know what we want. We know what we think is best. But sometimes the universe has a better idea for our lives. Sometimes. I'm just saying. Not all the time. I do have people that say, well, if the Bible said it, the Bible said God is going to do good things for you, so God is going to do good things for you. That's okay. If you want to be there, that's okay. But sometimes the universe just moves you in a certain way because you're in a certain consciousness. You're in a certain eternal state. You're in a particular state. And in that state, these things happen. It's not, let me see. It's not, I want to say this in the right way. I don't want to really question anything. But it's not God as an individual taking you as an individual and moving you and your individual life in a particular way. It is the principle that we have named God that connects with the state that you're in, the consciousness that you're in, and bringing that forth. Let's think about the universe for a minute. The universe is forever expanding. That's what we've found out. They used to think it was shrinking. Now they say we can see that it's expanding. And we are what? Little universes, right? Little universes in consciousness. I mean, we have a subconscious that is immense. It's immense. It's almost unmeasurable. And in that subconscious, we can place things, and as we place those things come forth in our life. We can continue to expand. If we understand that and we accept his eternal states and we find ourselves in a negative state, understand just by our nature, if we continue thinking in that manner, we expand that. We create a larger unhappy state because the eternal state is also unlimited. I mean, it can go on forever. It doesn't matter whether it's, positive or negative in our eyesight, it can continue on and continue on. So since we do have that power, regardless of what's going on in our lives, we can choose a different state, knowing with the confidence of knowing that it already exists. You say, well, why is that so important? And the fact of the matter is that sometimes we can get so down that we don't believe that there is a up. And when that happens, that means we're losing it. We're losing the control that we need. Because no matter how far down there is an up, no matter how angry I got, I had to know that there was a place where there was no anger, that there was another state of consciousness, there was another eternal state that I could move myself into because I was the operator. And it took more than the time I would have wanted it, but I was able to do it. And that's it. And people say, well, I've been, doing this for years. This has been going on for years. I heard a story on public radio yesterday. They have something called The Ball. Some of you may be familiar with it. And this person, I didn't get the whole thing, but the essence of it was that they had been suffering for something for like 15 years. They thought it was ADHD. They thought it was different things, ADHD. They thought it was all different things. And then this doctor, the new doctor, I believe it was, or no, it was the same doctor. And they said, oh, we never tested you for this particular whatever it was. They tested her for this particular whatever it was and found out, yeah, well, we have some medication for that. And long story short, it was prescribed to her rather. And she was reluctant to take it because it had some side effects. And then she realized that I've been suffering for 15 years. And, I see what it could possibly do, but it also could possibly end my suffering. Not by killing her, but stop my suffering, let's say. And she said, well, that made sense to me. And sometimes I say that we can get into something that's been going on so long, we figure there's no end to it, but we want it to end. But when we realize that there is another state, no matter how, debilitating, whatever the state we're in right now, there is another state that offers just the opposite. It offers joy, activity, life, energy. It offers all of that, but it's going to take some work to get into it. And there might be some side effects along the way. There might be some setbacks along the way. But once we're committed and take our Peter consciousness and say, Peter, no longer will you look out there. We will look to the Christ. We will look inside. We will look to the divine. We will look for our guidance and stick with it. What it's saying is that because we are like the universe, and what we develop a root in consciousness, you say a root in, that means we plant it in our subconscious. We really get it planted. It has no other choice other than to expand. So it's not there's nothing there. It's not that it's been so long it can't change. It's that I need to do the work to plant it in the subconscious so that on its own it can expand, because that's what the subconscious does. And it starts with knowing that there is an eternal state of the opposite of what's going on in my life. There is an eternal state. And I don't know all the answers how to get there, but I'm willing to try. So if we start with that, and then the second thing it gives us is, in the imagination, everything exists. So that eternal state that is opposite of what's going on in my life right now, I accept it. And now I need to know, how will it look when I arrive? That's the imagination, putting the imagination in. And just know that it's work. One of the classes I used to teach, I would explain that the negative stuff, the cigarette smoking, whatever it might have been, does not want to leave you. It has become a habit. And as a habit, it has life that says, I ain't dying. You ain't kicking me out. No, sirree. I will do everything to survive. Now, the good part of that, and you say, what could good be about a negative habit? The good part of that is that once you are able to plant in the subconscious what you really want, if it's to stop whatever it is, it will find a way to deliver to you. It may take time. It may take time now. It may take years. It really may. But it will definitely find a way. So it's knowing that the state exists. I'm the operator. My imagination has everything I need. I'm going to put all this together, and I know it's going to be a challenge, but I'm up for the challenge because I'm up for the change. What do you say? I'm up for the challenge, so I'm up for the change. Yes, sir. What do we say in unity? How does this work with our principles? Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Just went through that. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Not in the conscious mind, but in the subconscious mind. For real, for real. So it has to be planned. It's not just a thought. It has to be an accepted thought that we plant, that we put in that subconscious and allow it to take root. And we don't pick it up and look at it. We say it's in there. We're going to keep putting it in there. I'm going to meditate on it every day. I'm going to do whatever I have to do. And that goes right along with Neville's teachings, with the imagination. Everything is in the imagination. The imagination is part of that process. Is a thinking process. Is a thought, and it's embedding that thought in the imagination so that the imagination can bring it forth. Think about that. And it talks about our spiritual awareness, eternal states, spiritual. That's spiritual. It's not something you see. And being aware of that, and then the responsibility to do the work, to make the change, to move into a different state. Yes. And our closing affirmation for the day. What? I am free to move into any divine state I choose. I know you want to say that. Say it, say it, say it. Yes, you are. I am free to move into any divine state I choose. I choose. I choose. We've already talked about why this is true, because we are the operator. We are the operate, as he says it. We are the operate. I want to invite you to participate with us. First of all, we operate by text, and we have a text line. And many people thought the text line was just so we could send out information about service, our celebration, or if we're having a workshop or whatever it might be. But it's more than that. It is a way to open a dialogue, because once you text connect to the number you see, 564-234-2890, we will respond. We will text you back to confirm to you that you're connected with us, and we'll ask you to provide us with a screen name that we can put with your text number. You will receive alerts. Normally we send them out once or twice a week. And more importantly, we will respond to your questions and comments that you text us. Wow. Good stuff, isn't it? Take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. And of course, I want you to know about our activities here at Unity of Chicago South, online New Thought community. Next Sunday, the fourth Sunday of the month, which we attempt to keep this regular. Sometimes I'm a visiting speaker at various churches, and it falls on a particular Sunday. And so we that preempts whatever our normal event on that Sunday would be. But normally fourth Sunday is the divine feminine experience, where two dynamic ministers, Reverend Dr. Stephanie and Reverend Bonnie, bring you just a different energy that will lift you and direct you in a very positive way. The third Sunday, which is this Sunday, we have our virtual book club, which is a live chat, which allows us to interact with each other. And I look forward to more interaction from you guys. And then the first Sunday is our guided meditation, which we like to think sets the tone for the month. Yeah. Yeah. Eternal States by Neville Garter. That's what we've been talking about today. The material is still available on our website, Unity of Chicago south. And the website is unityocs.org. For some of you, you have to put the HTTPS in front of the actual domain name. And I want you to know that your support is important to us. And I want to ask you, have you invited a friend or a relative to share our Sunday celebration with you? Or have you followed or liked one of our pages? Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Have you committed to tithe or to make an ongoing contribution to support our work to help individuals be better, to do better? I ask you to please go to our website, again, unityocs.org. And if your browser requires it, put the HTTPS// in front and click on support. And there you'll be able to choose your method: credit card, debit card, check, cash app. We appreciate your presence. We appreciate your support. And we appreciate your consciousness. And again, thank you. Thank you so much for whatever way you support us. And from the Unity of Chicago South Spiritual Community, this is Reverend R. King, reminding you and me that we are free to move into any divine, eternal state of our choice. And we declare, and so it is. Namaste. Until next time.